Everyone, I'm really excited to introduce to you a really fantastic young woman that I have had the privilege of meeting for the first time this evening, and she has a bit of good news to share. Our next speaker is a senior majoring in marketing at MSU, and outside her academics, she is a member of the Maverick women's basketball team. At the Newman Center, she serves as a student leader, leading the women's basketball Bible study, and in her free time, she enjoys cooking. Everyone, please help me welcome to the stage, Hannah Herzig.
I am not as good as Eric. I did not memorize my speech. So if you see me looking at this, just know. Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Herzig, and I'm honored to speak at this year's Newman Gala. Before writing this speech, I often would tell people that my conversion story would take over 2 hours. Do not worry, I will not share that story with you guys today. But it is hard for me to not share every detail of how my life has completely changed. When I came into freshman year of college, I was a Protestant who loved God, but didn't yet have a solid foundation in my faith. It didn't take long before I was swept into the athlete lifestyle and all the temptations that came with it. My only real connection to God at that time was our basketball team's Bible study, which I attended inconsistently at best. I was also dating my boyfriend, whose faith mirrored mine, lukewarm and uncertain. Looking back, it was clear that my relationship with God had taken a back seat, and not much of my conversion happened in that first year. My sophomore year is when everything began to shift. We got a new missionary named Bryn, who began to lead our team's Bible study. I started going more often, and after going consistently 3 to 4 times, which is not a lot, Bryn saw something in me that I had not seen yet in myself. She invited me to grab lunch with her, and during that lunch, she gave me a gospel presentation and asked if I wanted to make Jesus the center of my life. Now, up until that point, I thought I had already made Jesus the center of my life because I believed in God, and I would sometimes go to church and read my Bible. Answering her question, however, I said yes, and she invited me into discipleship so that she can intentionally walk with me in a 12-week program of formation. But when I learned it was Catholic-based, I immediately said no. I was very closed-minded when it came to Catholicism and wanted no part of it. A few months go by, and there's an opportunity to go on a mission trip to Mexico City. Without thinking of any logistics, I felt a tug in my heart to go. Luckily, my 2 roommates signed up with me. And it wasn't until the pre-trip safety meeting, which included attending Mass, that I realized I was trapped, and I actually had signed up for a Catholic mission trip. Now, you must be wondering, Hannah, there had to have been some signs along the way that I had missed, and there's a couple. I wrote them down. Everything was being held at the Catholic Newman Center. That was number 1. Number 2, when I signed up, I had to fill out a Google form that asked if I was Catholic or not. And number 3, during the safety meeting, there was a get to know you hot seat where everyone stood in a circle, and one by one you would take turns going into the center and people could ask you questions. And there were 2 guys that had their arms crossed the first questions that they would ask were either who your favorite saint was or boldly asking, why are you Catholic? I was very afraid of these 2 men. And luckily, they must have gotten tired to ask me those questions because they didn't ask me those, but it was abundantly clear that I was no longer excited to go on this mission trip. When we arrived at the airport, everyone checked in and got our flight seats. When I was boarding the plane, I found my seat, and who else was seated next to me? None other than the 2 guys from the safety meeting. My goal was to put my headphones in so I didn't have to talk to them during the 4.5-hour flight. Unfortunately for me, though, they were quicker than I thought, and the questions immediately started rolling. During the flight, I found out that both of these 2 guys, Jeremy and Ian, had both gotten confirmed in the Catholic Church this past Easter, and they were very educated on what they believed in. I, however, was not. That flight turned into me asking every question I had ever had about Catholicism, and their answers were so clear and confident that I had nothing to do except sit there and think. I was hit with the truth. Each day during the mission trip, we had mass and spent an hour in prayer. Was it all perfect or easy for me to understand? Not at all. In fact, during our first mass in Mexico City, I sat in the back pew, hoping no one would notice that I had no idea what I was doing. Instead, I ended up fainting and into my roommate's arms, and everyone turned back and looked at me because it made a loud bang. It felt like that was God's way of saying to me, you can't hide from this. That mission trip completely changed my life. I thought it would be about serving the poor and being moved by their stories, but the biggest transformation that happened was in my own heart that week. This was only the beginning of my conversion. That summer, I was in denial. I didn't think I actually needed to become Catholic. I figured I just had to make church more of a priority and cleaned up some of my habits, and everything would be fine. When I came back from my junior year, I started discipleship with Bryn, and it only took 3 weeks before I realized the truth. I did need to become Catholic. What was missing all along was the Eucharist, Jesus' body, blood, soul, and divinity truly present. That was something I couldn't deny. And once I understood that, there was no going back. I signed up for OCIA, which was led by Jeremy, one of the 2 guys from the mission trip. And I encouraged my boyfriend to do the same. Not because I wanted him to become Catholic, which was true, I can admit that now, but because I wanted him to learn everything that I had on that mission trip, but most importantly, the truth about Catholicism. This past April, my boyfriend Logan and I got confirmed in the Catholic Church during the Easter Vigil. Though our conversions were very different, they were both very powerful, and it was such a blessing to be able to walk through our journey together. Since then, I've started to lead the basketball team's Bible study and mentoring some of the girls of my own through discipleship. And just when I thought that God had changed enough in my life, Bryn encouraged me to apply for Focus. Even though I was hesitant, I went to the interview in Nebraska in May, and a few weeks later, I got offered and said yes to become a Focus missionary. Looking back, it's incredible to see how God has worked in every moment, from the first Bible study in the Newman Center, to the Mexico City mission trip, to now preparing to serve the Lord as a full-time Focus missionary. What started as curiosity has turned into complete surrender. And I'm grateful that God had never stopped pursuing me, even when I tried to hide in the back pew. And as if God hasn't changed my life this past year enough, just a week ago, Logan and I got engaged. And it's been amazing to see how the Lord has transformed not only our individual hearts, but also our relationship, one that is now truly fully on Him. As I look ahead, my heart is filled with gratitude for the people and the moments that brought me here. For Bryn and Elizabeth, whose guidance was such a gift during my conversion. For the friends and the other missionaries on the mission trip who patiently answered my countless questions. For my parents and family support over this past year. And for the Newman Center, that truly has become my home. My life has been completely transformed by the love of Christ and His church, and I'm eager to keep sharing that same love with others through Focus. Thank you all for allowing me to share my story with you, and thank you to the Newman community for being a place where my story truly began. Thank you.